Blog Talk Radio.
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to Zambia Blog Talk Radio. This is our first show in the year 2013, and thank you for joining us and for taking the time to spend your weekend with us. We have a great show lined up for you, and we're going to have a great and exciting discussion. This day has basically been dedicated to issues to do with business, investment, and related matters. So we are continuing in the same vein because I believe that basically most of us who participate in this forum are diaspora residents or diaspora-based. So therefore, we are glad to do what we are doing so that we stay in step and be able to learn the things that are happening. Let me say good morning to everybody in continental USA. Good afternoon, Zambia. Good afternoon, the United Kingdom. So we will continue our show. If you choose to make any comment or make any contribution but you are not able to call in, you can do so on our Facebook page, Zambia Blog Talk Radio, or on our Twitter at Zambia Blog Radio. That is what we are going to do. Okay, it's good to see everybody join us, and we've been talking about our guest who is joining us today. He doesn't need much introduction, but we do know that Dr. Caleb Fundanga served as Bank of Zambia governor for quite a while, and is going to be discussing some very important issues with us this morning or evening, depending on which part of the world that you are in. So therefore, stay tuned as we begin. We will be beginning our discussion immediately. We have Dr. Fundanga. Let me just recognize a few people that are calling in here. Elizabeth, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And another great Zambian who is another great Zambian who is joining us here is also Desai. How are you? Okay, Desai is not ringing. As we try to get a few things going here, let me just play a song here as we get ourselves together and try to get organized and see what is happening. Let's enjoy this music.
Hello number 317 629 819 96. Call out.
All right. Once again, we want to welcome each one of you back to the show here as we were trying to connect our guest from Lusaka. Like I said earlier on in my opening remarks as we were starting here, Dr. Caleb Fundanga is the current president of the Institute for Finance and Economics. He is a man who's very familiar to all of us. He served as Bank of Zambia governor from 2002 to 2011, and he has held many portfolios. We shall talk about that as we go and begin our discussion with Dr. Fundanga. Dr. Fundanga, Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you as well, and everybody who is listening.
Yes, sir. We are delighted that you chose to join us. Obviously, I know you are a person with a passion at heart for people in the diaspora. You've interacted with us even when you were governor of Bank of Zambia, and we greatly appreciated your accessibility in spite of you holding that high office there. Doctor, let's begin by asking this question: what is the Institute for Finance and Economics? Who can be a member, and what is it? What is its structure? How does the structure look like?
Well, the Institute for Finance and Economics was established towards the end of 2011. I must say that it was an initiative I started after leaving the Bank of Zambia. I thought that it was important for me to continue some of the things that I had been doing while I was working at the Bank of Zambia, as well as some of the things I did for other institutions I worked for, like when I worked at the African Development Bank. And over the recent past also, I've been very closely involved with the African Export and Import Bank. All these are institutions that in one way or another are trying to promote the growth of the financial sector in Africa. And I thought that through this institute, some of the things that I've worked on and those that I had not worked on but had always wanted to work on could be realized. So the principal focus of the institute is what I would call promoting financial inclusiveness. By this I mean that we are working to ensure that every African can have a chance of being touched by a financial service provider. This is a big problem for most of the African countries. In a country like Zambia, for instance, only about a third of the people have access to financial services. Now, those of you who are in developed economies know that you can't survive if you don't have access to financial services. In fact, I have personally been saying that finance is like blood into the human body. If you don't have blood in your body, you can't live. Similarly, for an economy, if there are no financial services, you can't really foresee the survival of a modern economy. So this is the reason why I think that we should continue to strive to spread financial services so that everybody can possibly have access to financial services. So this is one of the things that I thought we could achieve through this institution. And I don't know if some of you have looked at our website. Let me just say it from the very beginning. Our website is www.ifezambia.org. There you will find what we stand for and the programs that we intend to do. But in everything that we are doing, we are putting financial inclusiveness at the forefront of the activities we are doing. We are hoping that we can work with the lower levels of structures of society where there is no inclusion, so that we can be touched. We are hoping to work with technology providers who can help to spread financial services at a much faster rate than when you use the brick and mortar, as is evident in the old banking style services. So with this, we talk with everybody, mobile phone service providers, ICT companies, and so forth. So basically, that's what we have been trying to do. Now, you asked who can participate.
Yes.
Can I touch that, or you want to raise another issue?
Okay. Yes, go ahead and explain who can participate and if people want to become part of the institute?
A part of it, yes. Basically, what we have is, I can say that IFE, as activation is, it's a loose structure. Basically, I wanted to create a share where if somebody has got an idea, they can come and participate. And let me show this. For instance, we have what we call our training programs, okay? Under the training programs, we don't have any training institution per se like you'd find anywhere, but we have identified programs which fit in with this financial inclusion objective, and these programs can be offered by people, professionals, who are any part of the world. For instance, I'll tell you that some of the programs we have are being supported by people who are in the U.S. We have some people, like I can mention here, for instance, Professor Kenneth Mwenda, who is at the World Bank. He's one of our associates, and he offers a course in anti-money laundering, in which he is a renowned expert and he has written widely. So if there is an institution, whether in Zambia or any part of the world, that wants to undertake a short course in anti-money laundering, we can call upon the services of an expert, like Professor Mwenda, to go and deliver. Similarly, we have other people who are experts in microfinance, others are experts in bank supervision, and so forth and so on. All these can approach us and they tell us that they would like to be associated, to become associates of the institute, and we will register them as such. The requirement for us at the institute is that if somebody wants to offer a program, they must present to us the material, all the details, how long the program will can be delivered, and so on. And then the institute will facilitate to look for clients who would be interested. And then at the appropriate time, when the expert is available, we can be able to mount a course, whether in Zambia or in any country for that matter. And it works quite well. So anybody can actually participate in this regard. The only thing is that our role is to check that you can present material which really will add to knowledge in this particular field to the target group. And you give us even copies of the material so that we go through and check that this is something with which we can associate with. And then we do all the organization. And you can, so from this perspective, anybody, whether you're in the diaspora or you're in Zambia, if you want to associate with us, you can write to us. We can dialogue with you and determine what we can offer. And then we market that particular program for you. So that is in the area of training. In the other activities, for instance, if you go through the website, you find one of the things we offer is investor services. There are people who want to come and invest in Zambia, but we don't know how to go about it. Even people who are in Zambia here, but they don't have the information. We help them to get in contact with the relevant agencies that can license them or that can give them advice and so forth. If they are looking for finances, we can also advise them on how to go about it and also make contacts for them with the relevant financial institutions so that they can do services. In recent past, I've been myself very surprised. I've had probably about 3 companies or small companies that approached us and they wanted to access bank finance. Some of them are involved in micro lending, but we didn't know where to get the money from. When we discussed with them whether they had ever been to a bank, they all told us they had never been to a bank. So we were wondering why they had never been to a bank, and upon close discussion, it was clear that they didn't even know that banks could deal with them. No, what banks required if they were to access the resources. So we helped them, introduced them to the bankers, and they let it follow after that. Some of them have even got collateral, which is sometimes the problem. And others don't have collateral, and it has been explained what they need to do if they wanted to access and so forth. So that's one activity. Another one is, for instance, somebody comes from the diaspora. It is often very difficult to just arrive in Zambia. You don't have even an office where you can operate from and so forth. The Institute has got an open door policy. You can come and become at the office. I'm not saying that we have got a lot of offices. We operate from the house in Woodlands, Lusaka. It's a 3-bedroom house, and so forth. We put up a boardroom, in some offices which can be shared, and we have internet facilities, telephone facilities, and so forth. So you can come there and at least start from somewhere over a roof. We don't even charge anything for that service, but we believe that we have a service to perform. So if people come, they can sit over there when they want to make a phone call, or if they make arrangement to meet with some people and they need some shelter where they can meet this, so you're always free to come to IFE offices, and we'll gladly facilitate for you to do the transactions you want in an office environment, which might not be possible if we didn't have an institution like IFE.
Dr. Fundanga,
and how we can deal with that.
Yeah. It's very important for what you have said, because I needed you to say that so that people understand what the Institute is about and the services that you're providing. And moving along with our discussion, I like the phrase that you're using, financial inclusiveness. And obviously, we all know that accessibility to favorable financial services is one of Africa's major challenges, particularly to small and medium-scale entrepreneurs. Overall, how do you see the picture now where this situation is? Not really relating to Zambia alone, but let's say the SADC region for one reason.
Well, access to credit for upstarts, especially small, micro, and medium-scale enterprises, small-scale enterprises, is always a problem. For many reasons. Many financial institutions think it's tedious, it's costly to deal with the small people. The small people don't have enough knowledge nor the muscle to be able to do certain things for themselves. So when they go into a financial institution, they need all the information that is possibly there because they don't know it. So it's very, very costly to deal with such borrowers. And, of course, even the performance sometimes may be a problem. You don't know whether they will pay back. They don't have adequate security and so forth. So you therefore find that globally it is very difficult. And the few institutions that are ready to give credit to small people usually charge a lot of money. If you take, for instance, in the context of Zambia, if you look at the micro lenders, some of them are charging as high as 10% per month, not per annum, 10% per month. So when you compare that, you're finding that people are borrowing at over 100% per annum. But yet the interesting thing is that in spite of this high cost, these people are able to pay back, or at least a substantial portion. Otherwise, there would be no lenders if these people are not paying back. So this is where we have a puzzle. If these people are as risky as they are said to be, why is it that a lot of people are going into lending to them? What would have been the situation supposing that these same borrowers were accessing loans at the same rate as those who go to banks? Don't you think their performance would have even been much better? So that is the matter that needs to be addressed. There is certainly a lot of business at the bottom of the pyramid, as they say, and this is the reason why money is going there. But the problem we have is that the right money is not going there. And what needs to be done is to ensure that some of the savings arising from the small savers themselves can be the ones that can be directed at lending to these small borrowers. Now, most of the micro lenders are actually borrowing from banks and then on lending, hence the high cost of their facilities. If bank loans are available at 20%, for example, and then the micro lender goes and borrows this money, at what rate would they give it to the small borrowers? It's obviously going to be anything above 20, but I can say substantially much, much higher because of these other related costs like the smallness, the tedious work of dealing with them, and so forth and so on. This is the reason why it costs so much. So the challenge is how you can enable these micro lenders to access less expensive resources which they can on lend. There have been some solutions in some countries. I know that even at the Bank of Zambia, one time we reviewed the regulatory framework for micro lenders, and we agreed that we could have a two-tiered system. One was for those lenders that use their own money or donor funds and so forth, which don't have much of a cost. And then the other stream was to be to allow lenders to actually collect savings like banks do, but they are micro lenders. So they would mobilize savings from people and then lend them. The only difference you find is that in the second group, there is a risk of public resources. Those who save money, if that money is not properly managed, it could get lost, and then you'd have poor, common people losing their little savings. So the proposed structure was to have a more rigorous supervisory framework for the micro lenders who also collect savings, but probably a looser structure of supervision for the others, because even if the money got lost, there is no public money at stake. But the most important thing when you have such an arrangement is that the micro lender will be collecting savings. Now, if you look at the savings rates, when you deposit your money in a savings account, the banks normally give you a very low interest rate. I know that in developed countries now, some banks are offering less than 1% on an ordinary savings account. So that would be the cost of that lender mobilizing the resources. So if you are getting but in Zambia now, most of the savings accounts probably they pay you 4%, 2%, and so forth. That is the cost of those resources you are using. Now, if you can get resources at 4%, you can be able to lend even at 10, 15%, and still make a little bit of a profit for yourself, in spite of the fact that you are lending to a very difficult group. So the source of funding that you use to own lend is critical in determining the rate at which you can lend. So because of this, you find that in recent times, we have had some new initiatives. Like here in Zambia now, we've got a bank called AB Bank. It's a bank with German origin, but actually was started by IFE, the German Development Agency, the European Investment Bank, and others and so forth. What we are trying to do with through AB Bank is actually to get a commercial banking license and then mobilize savings using that license. But for lending, only concentrate on lending to small borrowers, micro lending, but using savings from the market. It's new in Zambia, but we have been operating in Tanzania, we are in Ghana, and it's growing all over. And with this kind of facility, it's possible to be able to give small loans at lower cost. In Zambia, AB Bank is establishing the market, like in Kirenge Market, the Northeast Kirenge Market of Lusaka, and the other places, so that marketeers also, when they need a little bit of funding to go and buy their goods, they can go to such a bank and borrow and be able to buy the things. Now, if the cost of that borrowing is brought down because the resources are gotten from the savings of the very marketeers, then you have got a win-win situation. At least even when you ask the marketeers to save money, they will know that if I save through that bank, I can go there when I need some financing and I'll get at a reasonable cost compared to going to an established commercial bank. So these are the kinds of solutions that we at IFE believe can help to change what we are doing. We are also looking at, you know very well that through the mobile telephone system now, a lot of financial products have become available. The M-Pesa in Kenya is famous. Even in Zambia here, most of the mobile phone companies have got their own products. We are trying to look at how we can go beyond the common services being provided. In particular, our interest is in ensuring that people with very little savings, I'm thinking here of somebody with something like 1,000 Kwacha or so, that they can save that kind of money in a financial institution without having to go to a bank. Those are we are working on one such product. We pray that, because obviously when we are doing development work of this nature, there are so many roadblocks. But we are hoping that those are surmountable and we can be able to come up with products where a common person in the street who ordinarily would not, because if you say you live in Charleston, you want to go to Lusaka, downtown Lusaka, to go and deposit 1,000 kwacha, it will cost you more than 1,000 kwacha to reach town.
That's true.
So what is the point? Yeah, so we want to ensure that without incurring any additional cost, you can deposit that 1,000 kwacha into an account. That way, it's possible to mobilize a lot more savings. And once we do that, then it's possible now those savings can be used to develop other sectors of the economy. If you look at countries like Japan and Germany, for example, with Japan, one time, a few years back, I went to Japan and we talked a lot to some of the key institutions in the development area. And they were telling me that in Japan, the Japanese save a lot. But most of these savings have been achieved through the Postal Savings Bank.
Oh.
And the Postal Savings Bank is everywhere because the post office had spread its wings everywhere, including in rural areas at very early stages. So that bank has been the institution through which the Japanese have been able to mobilize savings, and the Japanese save a lot. And all that money was collected, and the Postal Savings Bank lent that money to the Japanese Development Bank, which later on was to finance big conglomerates like Toyota and so forth and so on. Now, it would be difficult to envision that a small saver in a tiny village in Japan can actually be the one financing Toyota. You know, similarly in Germany, the Postal Savings Bank has been very, very powerful over the years historically, and they mobilize resources from very remote places. Now, in much of Africa, we don't have similar institutions that can be able to mop up little resources from the rural areas and channel those resources to support even big companies. But my interest would be, if there was such a solution, I would rather that those resources were used to finance the very small people, because they are the ones who are often excluded from this whole process. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We'll be following and monitoring the progress of the Institute, Dr. Fundanga. You are listening to Zambia Blog Talk Radio. We're speaking with President of the Institute of Finance and Economics, former Bank of Zambia Governor, Dr. Khaled Fundanga. Before I allow my colleagues to come in and ask their questions, Dr. Fundanga, I'm looking at the website right now, and I'm reading something. Apart from generating development policy options, how does the Institute generate these policy options? And I'm also reading here that you are involved in a lot of gathering information and statistics. Could you briefly discuss those two items?
Well, on policy options, we have what we call the IFE think tank. I'm sure if you go to the window on About Us, you find that we have listed members of the think tank. We have as our chairman the Honorable Simon Zukas, the very revered old senior citizen with a lot of experience in business as well as in politics. He was very gracious to agree to be our chairperson. And we have invited a number of people to join, as you see from the names of the people who are here.
Yes.
Now, what will be happening is that the think tank will be meeting. Initially, we have agreed to meeting once every month. They will choose a topic which they think is relevant to the policy issues confronting the country or the global economy at any time. Papers will be invited from experts, so the Institute will commission papers. Either the Institute personnel will write them, but again, we don't have a large labor force. So normally we always target to work with experts all over. So if there is a topic like that, we'll look globally and see an expert who can write something on this. The resources permitting, we can invite as many experts and as extensive as they come, so that we have got the broadest views on a particular topic. Then the members of the Institute will read those and debate and come up with a common position which they think is right thing. That is what will be published as the policy position of the institute. It will come out in the form of a policy paper, which paper will be posted on the website and also, as well as distributed electronically to all concerned, the so-called stakeholders. Now, we believe that the production of a policy paper is the final product of the process of think tanking, because it presents an opinion, a policy opinion on something which a government can consider or which anybody can consider whenever they have to deal with this matter, so that they won't have to say, no, there was no option. We took this course of action because there were no other alternatives. If, for instance, we say, this is what we believe should be the right policy on agriculture, okay? And this is terminated. And then later on, the government was to do something different, and it proved to be disastrous. People would say, but if there was an option here, why didn't you consider this option? But that, I think, is what our intellectual contribution can be to policy formulation. Not that, obviously, as an independent body, we are not in control of government or anything, but we believe that knowledge can be used productively if it's made available to those whose duty it is to formulate and implement policies. So we hope to contribute to the development debate by using this independent forum. And again here, this is a field which is open for everybody. What I'm hoping for is that as our institution grows, we can probably be putting on our website all the topics to be tackled in a given year. Say an annual calendar can show in this month, we will tackle this month, and then everybody globally who will be visiting our website can be able to write to us and give us their opinion so that we are able to collect. I know quite often the people in the diaspora are saying, well, you are just listening and watching, isn't it, to what is happening, whether we are making ourselves out here or not. You don't have a channel through which you can contribute. But through this, we are hoping that if we post that next month, we'll be discussing maybe value addition, which has been a popular topic in recent months. We post it there, and then you can give us some views. Maybe where you are, you are lucky to see something more positive in terms of what we can do to value add to our natural resources. You send it to us, and so you'll be part of the contributors to the final product. That way, we hope that we can create a global community of thinkers on development who can become a really important force for positive change in our society.
Well,
so that is really one,
I think everybody can go to the website. We can't discuss everything here. The idea is to provoke curiosity and interest in the subject matter here, and for people to get involved in the website is ifezambia.org. A lot of information. And this is very well done, Dr. Fundanga. I like going through this website and just reading through some of the things and some articles. And I'm glad you decided to put the speech my friend put there on his book launch. He really displayed himself as a Mufrila product.
Yes, let me say something. Let me say something about what we are also doing in the area of books.
Yes.
In the area of books, we do realize that very little has been written about the Zambian economy first, and then about the African economy. Many of the development models that I imagine are coming from outside Africa. We hope that the IFE can be a vehicle which we can use to get those of you who have got ideas, who want to publish them, to work with us. We don't have resources to publish the books at the moment, but I can tell you that already I've written to some international financial institution that thinks the idea is good, and I'm waiting for their response. If they do agree, we hope that we can have a little bit of resources. So at least you give us a manuscript, we can be able to give it to a good editor and publish it and launch it globally for you. That way we'll be contributing to the development of African development thought. Our initial focus obviously is on development issues, but there is no reason why as we continue growing, because development is about everything, including literature. If we have good African poets, that is also a contribution to development. We hope that we can embrace many of these things, but we can't do everything at once. So we'll take it step by step. Now, so far, under the Institute, we have launched 2 books. We have not been responsible for publishing these books. The authors themselves have worked hard and published, and we have just helped in the dissemination by launching them. Normally in Lusaka, we launch the books at Kamozi Hotel, which is a partner hotel. Lusaka. Now, the first book we did was one by Professor Mwenda, which was talking about bank regulation. It's a topic which is dear to me because of my work at the central bank. But those of you who have had a chance to read that book, you will agree that even some of the issues that we have confronted in the Zambian banking sector, we are already coming out in that book, which was done in 2010 or so. So Professor Mwenda put a lot of thought to writing that book. And we are so glad that it came out. Although it was launched in 2012, it still had a lot of relevance. In fact, it was even more relevant because I could point out that here is Professor Mwenda writing in 2010 about things which are very relevant today in 2012. So that's one book. The second one is the one done by Mr. Musaba Chailunga, on the project object-oriented development. This is a book I recommend to anybody who is seriously thinking about what they can contribute to economic development. Some of the views, personally, Musaba has really impressed me because, you know, for somebody who is not a social scientist, somebody who is an ICT expert, the way he articulates some of these views on development and so forth, it is very, very interesting. There are some issues he has tackled, even for instance when you look at the global financial crisis and its origins and so forth. I was very impressed by his understanding. But there are also these issues. Most of us, we are always complaining about who is benefiting from development and so forth. It's very clear that you need private sector-driven development. And that is a very important point that one needs to note from that book. But at the same time, there are other controversial issues in development, like you've got growth without development. He tackles that excellently. Because if you look at an economy like Zambia, you say, yes, you have been recording impressive rates of growth. Why is it that poverty still persists? And he looks at the structure of employment in the mining industry, the taxation in the mining industry, the ownership structure. All these things do determine whether something remains after trade has taken place within the country, and so forth and so on. Well, I remember many years ago we used to say that, you know, don't just blame this capitalist. If a capitalist builds a castle in Zambia, he will never take that castle out of the country, right? It will remain one of the assets of the country. And the point is they can never dismantle it and take it to UK or wherever. But that is usually possible if those people who have the money are locals. Because I can't see a person who is not a local building a castle in Lusaka. So those are the kinds of things that really matter. And he's arguing that, you see, even if you have just got a few people who become millionaires in the first round, in the second round there will be a lot more because those people have to employ people to make their money and so forth. So it's, for me, I'm saying it's must reading. It's required reading for anybody who wants new thinking on the development. Yes. But these are the kinds of things that we want to be associated with. If people can come up with new ideas about how to look at what we are doing, I think that's what's going to make Africa move. But at the same time, we also benefiting because his experience in North America obviously brings in a new dimension to understanding what development is all about. So my challenge to all of you in the diaspora is to also come up with something. We are willing to work with you. We may not have the financial resources, but I'm sure that as we go on and as our work gets known by a lot of people, it will be possible that we can be able to raise some resources as we are trying to do, so that all those who want to write can write. But another dimension to this issue also is that there are a lot of our country folks in Zambia, but also in other African countries, who have had a lot of positive experience. But maybe because of working in public institutions or so, they dare not they didn't have the time to articulate or to share some of these experiences with people. We want to ensure that we can get across to these people and ensure that they can share with us some of these experiences by writing. We know they may not be able to write. So some of the resources I'm currently trying to mobilize will be resources which we can give to biographers. You know that in the countries where I live here in the diaspora, many of these people, retired generals, retired presidents, they don't write the books themselves, but they will tell a story sitting down in a comfortable lounge. They will tell the story to somebody and then be able to write it nicely and so forth. Why can't we have the same to Africans? So people can tell their stories and we publish them, and so people can also learn about the experiences of these people. So that is also part of the programs that we want to do at the Institute. And I'm hoping that if funds become available before the end of the year, we can even produce even just one book done by a senior citizen, written by maybe somebody from the University of Zambia Literature, the languages department, who can write a nice story, something like that. Yeah.
I'm confident after this discussion, a lot of our intelligent and smart colleagues in the diaspora, Mutale is here. I know Robert Siching out there is going to be listening. Tini is my friend within Dallas. Everybody, let's get involved in the Institute. Okay, Dr. Fundanga, let me allow people to ask questions here. I can tell that after you have downloaded this information, a lot of people have just now lit up the switchboard. They are they want to talk to you. Okay, let's go ahead.
I hope that as you read, there is an interesting article you'll find on our homepage. An article I wrote for the Banker magazine, the special edition for the World Bank IMF annual meetings in Japan last year, September. It's about how we can use resources of African central banks to finance African development. It's interesting because...
Yeah, this is a very interesting article. I actually read it, and I hope we can... I don't know how much time we are going to remain with after my colleagues ask the question. I read the whole thing, and I'm grateful to my friend Musaba who told me. I read the whole thing thanks to Musaba who told me that I needed to read that article. Let me allow a few people to ask a few questions here. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Pastor Nkama. Dr. Fundanga, good afternoon. I'm sure it's afternoon by your time there, or evening. I'm calling.
It's evening now.
I'm based in Pennsylvania, and my name is Elizabeth Sichinga. The reason why I'm asking a question, I want to relate it to something you've just been talking about, which is you're talking about issues of development, and that in order for us to really address poverty, I think one aspect we have to look at is empowering the people. It has to be economic empowerment. People, one problem that I've seen a lot in Africa, after having worked there for some time with government agencies, was that there was this approach of most of our mentality as Africans is so much targeted to donor-driven development, where we are very good at writing project proposals and not writing business plans. That's just one question I want to throw out. I don't know how that question is being addressed now. I haven't been in Zambia or Africa for a little while. My other question really is in regard to, we have, in fact, at some point, we should be talking to Pastor Kama on this subject in the coming few weeks. We have an initiative which we are spearheading here in the U.S. We have just, we incorporated a business in Maryland, which is now going to be headquartered in Reading, PA. We are planning to have a very big business conference at the end of the year. We are also launching and rolling out a number of big projects. This initiative is a combination of African Americans and Africans, and a few of them are from actually Zambia. We have incorporated a business called the African Global Super Center. Our goal is to start eventually slowly evolving, changing the face of Africa from this perspective, from this end, as African Americans who have understood what fighting for civil rights is, and as people who have understood what it means to fight for colonial rule and freedom. We feel we're at a point now where we should focus on economic development. So we are trying to use this as a vehicle that should bring Africa on the global map. And we are also looking at using, after initiating the first global center here in the U.S., our plan is to start going into African countries until we can go global. Our first target will be Zambia. So I should be coming to Zambia sometime next year, early next year, for a number of other projects, this being one of the major ones, or before end of next year, to just start getting groundwork done. So I would really be appreciated at that time, maybe as we get close, that I could be network with people like you and a few others who can help us shape how or advise on how we should get this global center on the African continent, planting it first in Zambia, then replicating it in other African regions. How can it go? We're also looking at the economic bloc. We've discussed all those issues, and everything is in our comprehensive program plan.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. First of all, the issue of donor, this donor syndrome, whatever. I think this is the biggest problem that we have, and the problem is even growing further because you find that people now know that they can corner donor aid. Even with good intentions, donors set up funds to maybe fight deadly diseases like HIV and AIDS, and people quickly from NGOs in order that, because this is the current topic, is free money, and everybody gravitates there. All that they are doing is just eating the money away and preventing the real issue being addressed, because the money gets being spent on salaries and trips and seminars and so forth, and the national theory gets done in the end. The proportion of money which just goes to meeting the financial needs of these hang-ons is so much that if that money was directed at dealing with the problem, probably you would be able to deal with the problem much, much more effectively. This is what must end. Because the aid thing has just become a big industry. Regrettably, even the interests are also in the developed countries, because they too must eat. And so it becomes now a very difficult thing to get rid of. But again, this is where views like the ones being espoused by Mr. Chairunga are important, because he's precisely stating us that we must move away from donor dependence and do something for ourselves. Africa has got a lot of opportunities. This is the reason why everybody's coming. Now they are fighting for Africa. From the north they are coming. The Chinese, the Indians, even the Brazilians now have also come in, because there is something. Why is it that we Africans cannot seize this opportunity and do something for ourselves? Now, obviously, some people tell you, we don't have the finances, we don't have the technology. But if we can, join hands, those of you now who are in the diaspora, you have the advantage of seeing how things are organized differently from those of us who are here always just waiting for the donors to drop a feather or something. So if we join hands together, it is possible that we can be able to tackle many of these things more effectively than has been the case so far. This century here is a century for Africa. And if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it for us. If the others come here, don't blame them for having left us in another round of poverty. But if we do it ourselves, then we can build our own mansions and castles. We'll say these are African resources from Africa's wealth. And then there will be nobody to cry foul after we've done that. So moving away from the donor syndrome, I think, is the key. But also this is why, for instance, private sector initiatives are important. If you can be able to create an independent income for somebody, you win them off from dependence on public education, dependence on public health, and so forth. It's the lack of income which is forcing everybody to gravitate towards the state. And now, because the state is overwhelmed, it goes with a begging bowl all over the world. Please help us with a little bit of money to fight tuberculosis, some money to fight HIV and AIDS, and so forth and so on. So independent development requires that we put accent on the role of the private sector, which also relates to the second issue I raised, the global center. This initiative is welcome. I will tell you, in 2007, I was in Los Angeles when I went to attend a big meeting at the Milken Institute, courtesy of Dr. Chembe, who had made all the arrangements for me to go there. And I had an opportunity to go and meet the Black Business Association. And even recently, last month, I had Mr. Hooks from there who came over. But you see, at that time, I said I would like to have a Black American bank in Zambia. Okay? And we discussed, but 2008 there was a global financial crisis. And so the idea did not look viable at that time. But my argument at that time was that the Black banks, Black American banks, were created to address these problems of lack of financial inclusion for the Black Americans. So it therefore means that the model on which they were based could be very relevant to our people here who have not had access. I don't think that the Citibank model can benefit the villager here.
No.
And even when you look at what they do, they don't even run normal banking here. They just got corporate services. So that's not the bank that can touch my cousin in the village or whatever. But if you look to other alternatives that you have, there are community banks and so forth and so on, it is possible that we can come up with something created to address inclusiveness. And if we can have those here, maybe the scenario will be very different. And so recently I got a letter from somebody there, an African American, who is involved in banking in the U.S. as well as in West Africa, and said, well, can't we revive the idea? I jumped with joy. Maybe we can. But again, the situation is always changing on the ground. Right now we are faced with a new problem. The minimum capital requirement to establish a bank in Zambia has gone up. Yeah. And if it's a foreign bank, it's $100 million minimum capital. Now, I don't know whether we can surmount that new obstacle which has been put in our way. If it was the old minimum capital requirement, I'm sure that we would have looked for $4 million to start a bank of this nature. But by joining hands through this global center, it's possible that we can put our resources together and so forth. Also look internally for some of these pension funds that have got underperforming resources, and perhaps be able to put up something and start a bank which is designed to address the problem. The issue of trade is something which only you people are there can do. Africa has got something to sell, not only minerals, but everything, including its crafts and so forth. And you people there can identify the markets and set up channels together with your brothers and sisters in Africa here, so that you can start taking something to America, something to Europe and so forth, rather than us receiving all the time, one-way trade. The only thing we send in return are our precious minerals. So these initiatives can only happen if you people who are there, through such initiatives like the global centers, can start something. And us, I can assure you that we'll be more than ready to join hands with you. Let me tell you one thing. One of the things that we are doing at IFE, if you come and you want an address where you register your company, we gladly offer you our address. You can register, have IFE offices as your registered office. And already this has happened to a number of companies, that a number of individuals that are trying to establish something, so that you don't have this problem of where are you operating from. You're just a brief expression and so forth. You can say, that is my office there, and you can bring them there, and they'll see that you've got a decent office to operate from. So let's see. I can only assure you that we are more than ready to partner you.
I can already see we have one person who's going to get involved with the Institute, by Elizabeth and the team. Okay. We have about 13 minutes. Let me quickly move to Canada. Roger, please go ahead.
Thank you, Nathan. Dr. Fundanga, welcome back to Zambia Blog Talk Radio. Actually, you've hit on something which I didn't even want to ask you about. I think this is one of the questions we are talking about on this radio. It is the diaspora to come together and do something positive. The unfortunate part is to convince a diaspora to give up $10, $20. It is a mountain I have never seen. But I hope listening to you, maybe, just maybe, and with your leadership, your caliber, your leadership in this might help us. But we in the diaspora are really, really very disappointing to ourselves. We have done a small analysis. If all of us we are approximately about 500,000 living in the diaspora. 1,000 of us could come up with $20 every month. We could collect in a year $250,000. Dr. Fundanga, what can't we do as members of the diaspora with $250,000? In the meantime, we are busy watching the Canadians mine and leave holes in our country. We are watching the Chinese take our mineral resources. The best we can do is bring up a good story on either on the radio or on the phone or on Facebook, but there is nothing we can't step up as members of the diaspora. It is shameful, Dr. Fundanga.
Yes, indeed, it's very shameful. I will tell you a story. When I was working at the African Development Bank and I was based in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, a country which has unfortunately gone through a lot of difficulty, I came up with the idea of establishing Zambia Growth Fund. And we wrote, sent emails all over, even North America, we did send Europe, within Africa, and so forth. Some of the comments we used to get those early days when the internet and the emails were just starting was, oh, so you also have internet services or email services in Africa. You know, those things don't help. I know that it was a very difficult thing, but the best idea was, just as you've suggested, you've got people, even if you are not working, you can probably afford $10, $20, you know, a month. So we said, let's just have those who can, the minimum unit is $10. Those who can afford $20 can put 20, 30, and so forth. So the shareholders, the stake in the fund can differ according to your contribution, which can be noted. And the idea was put this money in and establish an offshore account somewhere where you can avoid payment of taxes and so forth. And initially we said, you don't go and buy a company because it raises issues of whether you can manage the company or not. Initially, just invest in blue chip companies. Blue chip by definition of Zambia. Okay, you go to the Stock Exchange and you know, invest. The idea there is that you benefit from good management. You don't have to manage the thing yourself, but it can be managed by others. But as the fund goes on growing, you can then be able to, sometimes you can be able to take over a company completely because you feel that you can grow it. Now you've got wings, you can fly. That idea, initially, I left Abidjan without the idea, the fund actually being established. But about 2 years ago when I had gone to Tunis, where the African Development Bank eventually moved to, I was told that they've actually established a fund. I have yet to assess. I'm hoping that maybe next time I have an opportunity to go to Tunis at the headquarters of the African Development Bank. I'll get more details and see exactly what they have done. But that's the way to go. Small contributions. Don't think you need millions to start a revolution. It's a small amounts which can start a revolution. Now, if that can be done, and I don't see any reason with 500,000 people, even just to say $1 per month, that's $500,000 per month, isn't it? If you put 10, if I talk of $5 million per month. So the potential, of course, not everybody can participate, but just to get 10% of this contributing $10 per month is a big thing. And that's what you can do. In Canada there, you've got all these Canadian companies that are making a fortune here. And it's easier for you to start buying shares in the Toronto Stock Exchange of these mining companies that are here.
Yes.
Every month you are buying the shares. Once they start making their billions, you also make your own billions. If not billions, at least millions. You know, a case point here is that some investment holdings, I think it made invested maybe about, I don't know how much, but it's a small, maybe $30 million in Lumwana. When this thing started. When the Barrick Gold bought it, I understand that they made over $150 million from the $30 million they had invested. That's how you can make it. But you are there at the center where these things are happening. There is no reason why you cannot partake of these fortunes which are being created. And if you become big, you can even have some of your members on the boards of these companies. That's how you grow. I can tell you that the British, from colonial times, they realized that their own people who are working for the mines in Zambia were a big investment force. They used to send investment managers here to come and entice them to buy, to contribute to certain funds which are being used to invest in some of the companies in Europe. And up to today, these managers do come here to actually collect some savings from the expatriate miners. You are our expatriates. Do the same as the British were doing so, and you can create a revolution here. So these things are there. But, of course, an idea cannot start with everybody agreeing. What you need to do, if there are 5 of you, and you think this is a great idea, start a small fund for 5 people. Tomorrow, maybe you expand to 10. By the end of the year, you're going to have 100 or 200, which is already a giant step. By the time you are reaching 1,000, you're even be talking of some successful investments you have made. But that's the best way to go. And if you believe in that, let me hear that tomorrow you've opened an account. And with those who are listening to this discussion today, all of you pledge something. And start the whole thing going. And that's how things grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Good. Yep, that's the purpose of us having this discussion. And I knew Dr. Fundanga was going to deliver. That's why I did this deliberately. Our last question is going to come from Canada. We have run out of time here and we need to make progress. Musaba, my good friend, please go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Fundanga.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I think, a short, very brief question on microfinance. Considering the cost of managing application forms and even processing small borrowers, is anyone looking into credit cards and where you use the borrower's own savings as security?
Okay. I don't know if there's anybody considering the use of credit cards, but I can tell you that the use of a borrower's own savings as security is a principle on which what you now call NatSave, when it used to be the Postal Savings Bank, that's the principle they used to use. If you were a saver with what is now NatSave and you wanted to borrow, you would go to them and they would give you a loan, but that loan would be related to your deposit. The only thing was that probably you needed double. You could only get credit up to half of your total deposit. So people were asking, if you are only going to get half of what you have, what would be the point in borrowing? Why can't you just withdraw half of your own savings and use them for the purpose? Now, obviously, it wouldn't make sense for me to go and borrow half of my deposit and then pay interest on that, when I could just withdraw. And I know that the money I've left with them, it earns much less than the interest I'm paying on what I've borrowed. But again, these are problems of design, isn't it? You as going by your great book, it's clear that many of our failings are because of poor design of programs. I'm sure that if people put their minds to it and saw how you can best benefit somebody who is saving with an institution targeted at small savers, you could find a formula for ensuring that the small savers can benefit from their own savings. But there are numerous ways by which you can be able to advance credit to small producers or traders or whatever the case might be. As I mentioned earlier, AB Bank is trying to deliver credit to marketeers and so forth. Some of them need even 2 million, 5 million, and so forth. The cost of administration is probably exaggerated. All that you need to do is to nearness to the players. If you have got your office in the market where these marketeers want small sums of money and so forth, and you know their stand and so forth and so on, it won't be very expensive even to appraise the activity, because you can go to the shop and see exactly the activities physically and make an assessment whether that business can generate the repayments you want within the period of the borrowing. So it's that kind of down-to-earth financial delivery which can help to reduce some of the perceived astronomical costs. I think the costs probably are very exaggerated. And you are not using investment bankers who want to get bonuses, astronomical bonuses, but people who just want to get a small salary to live on. You know, those are the people that you employ to work there and who also know the local market. And they know even who is a cheater and who is an honest trader and so forth. If we started to design our systems along those lines, it probably won't be very challenging to deliver the kind of assistance we want. Some of the problems we've had with publicly delivered credit schemes have been that mainly because they are politically directed, access is often by those who are in good books with the politicians. And sometimes people who are not even doing anything productive are the ones who get the money. And those who are actually genuinely doing something will not get the money because they are not politically connected. So you have to be a stone thrower or whatever cadre in order to access to something. But if you honestly deliver to those who need these resources, I'm sure you could see a very big difference. There are some of the people who just need 500,000 Kwacha of the old. Now it's probably 50. I don't know if in the rebased Kwacha now it's much lower than that. That's all that they need, 500 Kwacha in the rebased form. And it could do wonders to what if somebody is buying cabbages, selling cabbages on the market, how much do they need to be able to get their first purchase of cabbages to sell? Probably even 500,000 Kwacha might be too much, even much less than that. So those are the people that can make a difference, because if we can change their income profiles, we are talking of thousands of people who can easily be transformed, who can become independent operators. And as you rightly point out in your book, these are the people who can be weaned off the public education system, the public health system, because they can be able to buy their own Panadol instead of queuing up for the whole day to get Panadol and therefore wasting their valuable time which they can use to go and trade in the market. So those are key decisions. But again, as we have been appealing,
okay. Doctor, are you still there? Okay. I guess he dropped. Let's see if we can get him back and just conclude. Everybody here, I think he has raised some very interesting issues here. Matthew, you've been listening to Dr. Fundanga. Your comments? Hello, Matthew. Okay. Let me ask my friend here in Dallas, Texas. Tini, so is this you?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I called in pretty late, so that's why I really didn't have a lot to say. I didn't really get to hear about the institute. But yeah, I called in.
That's the bit that you have heard. Just the bit that you have heard.
Well, I mean, as far as what he talked about concerning, like a fund, an African fund or a Zambian fund, so that's spearheaded by Zambians in the diaspora. That's a really salient point, especially seeing that so far it doesn't seem that anything has been done to that effect. I know a few years ago there was something called, I think it was Zambian. I can't remember the name of the fund that I remember, was it Dr. Mbewe in Poland?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, trying to spearhead. that didn't kick off because a lot of people. I think there's always a trust.
Let me cut you short.
Yep.
Let me cut you short. I think Dr. Fundanga is back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Did you finish your point, Dr. Fundanga?
Well, more or less, I was finishing. What I was saying was that some of the products that can possibly be developed. You people out there, you have experiences of some of the products which are working in the market here. When you come here, partner with some of the people who are delivering microcredit so that you can assist them to design new products which probably can deliver better than the current products. That's where I ended.
Yeah, that's Dr. Fundanga, we do thank you for taking the time to spend with us. I can tell you from my personal point of view that the purpose of this discussion was to provoke diaspora activity and involvement and to learn about the Institute. And I think I can confidently say we have achieved that, and we should be getting involvement from this part of the world. And you'll definitely be hearing from us, sir. And like I said at the beginning, you are one person. Even when you were Bank of Zambia governor, you had an open door to us. We thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure talking to you. And please continue the work you are doing. The work you are doing is very important because you are bringing together everybody, sharing ideas and so forth. That's how you start moving forward. Yes. But on our part, let me assure you that the Institute is there for you and for anybody who wants to do something positive for Zambia, for the African continent, and we will endeavor in whatever little way we can to assist you. Don't get disappointed. We don't have the resources, but we just try to, much of the work we are doing is more or less like voluntary. But we think that if through voluntary work, others can make some impact on our societies, we will have also contributed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great 2013. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, I'll introduce you to a little brief short segment, and then we'll have a little analysis when we come back. In Soselo Yalero.
For me, I'm off now, eh?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, beginning this year, this was our first show today. We are starting a new segment we are calling. It's just for 1 or 2 minutes. Just 1 or 2 minutes. It's called Insoselo Yalelo. I believe I said that rightly. People laugh at me and they say my Texas accent has distorted my Bemba. But I am about to say, we'll take it over.
Thank you, Mr. Kama, for this opportunity. And let me just take a minute to say to Zambia Block Talk Radio Management, thank you for this opportunity for me to bring to our listeners Insoselo Yalelo. Just like my brother already said, sometimes you have to forgive us. We have been here for some time, our accent and the way we say, you might laugh at us. But my name is Daniel Ditch Segwe. I'm a Zambian, and I'm living in the United States of America. And I appreciate our listeners to add on Insoselo. I will be saying it in Bemba, then in English. And please, if you can add to it, I really appreciate it. And today's saying is ukwangala kwachiro lupwa. That means ukwangala kwachiro lupwa. In English, having friends is more than having relations. Thank you, Wankama. Take it over.
Chairman. What can you say?
I like that. I love it.
That we'll be doing that every Saturday after a heated discussion like this one. We have in Soselo Yalelo.
I think you should add on a little bit of some steak to it. Meaning what?
No, that's a good thing about this new cells. It lets you ponder about it, and that way, that's what I'm saying. I appreciate people adding on it. Think about it, Roger. Think about it.
Yes. I think, I think, in Zambia, in I think secondary or I think primary school, we used to do a lot of these things. Sometimes they explain to you, even your parents or whatever. I think what I take from it is that sometimes the people who come to your rescue, actually not sometimes, most of the times, are your friends, right? So you should value your friends. It might be close to where they say that you can pick your family, but you can't pick your friends. Not the same thing, but the fact that these people, you just meet them, and some of them, what they go through to help you, it's unbelievable. You see what I mean? Yeah. Like, for example, when I came here, from the U.S. to Canada, I depended entirely on friends. So that's very true.
Excellent. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Vanathan, can I just add on? And another thing we should look at it. Look what happened with Zambia Block Talk Radio. I was on the weekend. I would just sit alone here, but through a friend, I got to know all you guys. If I were just to allow my family, I would have not been well informed what's going on back home, and I would just want to encourage all diaspora people, that we are here for each other.
Excellent. Okay, let's sort of do an evaluation here and look at some things Dr. Fundanga has raised. By the way, everybody, next week we're talking to first President Kalusha Bwaria. I thought we should talk to him before the tournament, the Africa Cup of Nations kicks off, because if he does, it will be difficult to catch these guys. So we'll be finding out from him the preparations they've made and how are they going to retain the cup, and where are they and where is the team. Join us next week. Kalusha Bwaria is our guest. Who am I looking for here? Matilda.
Yes.
Good
afternoon. Good morning.
Yeah, you, Dr. Munsanje, Roger, now you've brought Matthew on the team. You've heard what Fundanga said, right? Elizabeth, get ready. I'll be coming to you after Matilda. You've heard what Dr. Fundanga said. And to be honest with you, I had like 12, 15 questions to ask him here, Musaba. I only discussed 3 with him. The man is loaded. Your take on what Dr. Fundanga said about you?
I was completely taken in by Dr. Fundanga's presentation. I felt like I'm in school. I need to write down everything he's saying because this is valuable information. This is something that you want to go back and say, I wish everybody in Zambia and those in the diaspora can listen in on. I like the question Elizabeth had brought in, and that also intrigued me, that we need to have people here in diaspora to continue to reach out to our partners in Zambia. You know, when we continue to network that way, we are able to develop our country. But when we are working on something here by ourselves, and our Zambian counterparts are working on something there by themselves, when we try to go back, there's a little bit of a disconnect. You are frustrated with trying to get things together, to work together. So if we apply Fundanga Vatilanda, I'm sorry, now I'm flipping to my language. Not everybody understands Bemba, forgive me. If we can...
Desai understands Bemba, alone for Desai.
No, I will stick to English.
I know.
I can only encourage us to apply the principles he had laid out. I also liked Saba's comments on though he didn't get too much time, and also his book he was on last week. I'm buying that book.
You need to buy the book. Everybody, you need to buy the book. It's available on Amazon. Object-oriented development. Let me go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you raised a very, and I know you keep pushing this thing because the purpose of this forum is to disseminate information. The Institute is a free platform for, to me it almost sounds like, what do they call it? When you go into a hotel. Hotels have got these places they call business centers. It sounds like a business center for me where you can get services which would cost you a lot of money, by Elizabeth.
Yes, you're right. I'll just talk a little bit about the institution itself, and then I can forward you one of our documents that we're working on, which can give you a bit more insight on what we are doing. And the website should be up in the next 2 weeks. We'll direct everybody to the website to see. The way we are setting it up is such that it will operate like, for sure, and it's a place where you can go and get any resource you want at an affordable or reasonable price as an African or as an African American or from any part of the diaspora as long as you claim to be a person of color or who originates originally from Africa, whether your parents or great-grandparents came into the diaspora decades ago, or it's our generation that is coming here but from Africa, as long as you claim to be, my motherland is Africa, you have access to this facility. Not only that, we are setting up what we are calling, it's like an oak tree with 2 branches. One branch is looking at enterprise development, which includes the banking concept, which the doctor talked about, Mr. Fundanga talked about. Fundanga. It has, we are looking at building a supply chain. We have an expert actually talking about where we want to open Africa up. That's why we're calling it a global. If you look at our logo, it has the map of Africa, and inside the map of Africa, there's the map of the U.S. Whoever is seeing that logo is just getting swapped off. Because we are saying it's our time as Africa to become a global player in economic development. So we want to open Africa up as a continent and be the major importer of all those products like Mr. Fundanga talked about, that they have all these things that don't have a market here. It's not only copper, it's not only oil that Africa can export, but it's everything else. That's what we want to do. Not only that, we're also looking at opening up trade within Africa. So we have a section that will focus on, that's why we're talking about the economic blocks, and Africa, Zambia will be the first where we'll go because of the, you know how we are strategically placed as a country. If we open an office there and then start pulling products from all over Africa into the global center in Zambia, so that a Zambian can go into this center, whether it's in the form of a mall, and buy an item that is manufactured in Ghana, chocolate from Ghana, made in Ghana, in Zambia, and any other part of the country, African continent. Once we open that, then move to other regions of Africa. We want to open trade in Africa and open trade in the U.S. where African products can come here. Products made by African Americans from here can get into Africa and Africans can enjoy it, so that we people, the opportunities we've missed as people of color, we can start enjoying them. So that's what we are doing. So it's quite a big concept, and it's a long-term goal.
We need to get that information, and when the website comes up, okay, I'm going to let Desai have the last word. Is this Desai 8196?
Yes.
Yeah, Desai.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, my friend. You've been there.
First of all, to reply to you, the lady who said she slipped into mother tongue. Nilem Fatiwe Mbapano Nofie. First of all, Murishani or Mapleniko Mukwai or Mashukweni Mukwai.
Make your point, Desai.
Okay, the point is that unfortunately I kept getting cut off. My phone is giving a bit of problems.
Okay.
The thing is that I had a very good point, but I am sure you, through your good office, you will be able to push this forward if you approve of what I have to contribute. Basically, I recently was in India a few weeks ago, and what I came to realize is they have something for the Indians who are out all over the world called NRI, which is non-resident Indian. Now, those guys have some special benefits, which I would say that we should start something politically motivated so that they sanction it, and then also get our civil servants involved so that it's we are given a status called non-resident Zambian. And in this, our young children who have, some of them been born here because their parents moved to America and so on, if they want to send money, for example, this will be something further, but first of all, we have to, establish this right to say non-resident Zambian. Then maybe a bank account can be opened by a Zambian who was even regardless born here, out of the country, meaning America or wherever, Europe, wherever in the world. Then they can send money to their grandparents or relatives in Zambia through this bank account, which will be an account called non-resident in a Zambian account. And then you can only deposit money in there with foreign exchange, either dollars, pounds, euro, or whatever. So basically, this is my contribution.
That's a good idea. Excellent idea. Those are the ideas. What you call it? Roger has been trying to push. Those are the ideas. If you read Musaba's book, he has presented them in a very unique way.
Well, you'll have to get me that book.
Yeah, you need to. It's called Object-Oriented. I can give you the details. Everybody, we need to read these things and support each other. Let me say thank you for all of you for joining us on this, our debut show for the year 2013. Next week, nakuza iwatiganja yakumakeni oisiye siumvera. We appreciate you all. Next week we'll be talking to Kalusha Walia to discuss the
I want to contribute.
And then please remember every morning Diaspora Darlings, Diaspora and Tools with Mkuka, Business Forum with Matilda, Roger, Dr. Musanje, and then Perspectives. And then we're hoping our good friend Yareka will be coming back. Have a great weekend, everybody. That was a great discussion with Dr. Fundanga. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Vankama.